Welcome everyone, I'm Dale and this is Cinema Historia. An American diplomat, a suspicious landlady, and a missing husband. This week we're going back to 1962 for a comedy mystery film called The Notorious Landlady, starring Kim Novak, Jack Lemmon, Fred Astaire, and Lionel Jeffries. And this is directed by Richard Quinn. Our story begins this week in London with Mrs. Dunhill, an older woman in a wheelchair, hearing a shot fired as neighbors open their windows to inquire. A body being dragged and a sports car rushing off leaves lookers on in fear and concern. Next, an American diplomat, William Gridley, played by Jack Lemmon, has just arrived in London and is looking for an apartment. He responds to an advertisement in the newspaper, private residence, flat to let, in Mayfair, 33 Grey Square. When he arrives at the house, a maid named Hilda opens the door and informs him that the apartment is only being rented to couples. After convincing her to take a look, during this time he realizes that the maid is actually the owner, Carly Hardwick, played by Kim Novak. Giving in, she lets him rent the second floor. The next day, Gridley meets and informs his boss, Franklin Ambrewster, played by Fred Astaire, that he has found a flat for rent. When Ambrewster hears Carly Hardwick's name, however, it seems familiar, so he calls the research department to inquire if they have any information. Well, they do. It turns out that the whole town suspects that Carly murdered her husband, Miles. However, since there's no body, Carly cannot be prosecuted. The first suspicion arises when Carly tells Gridley to use the closet in his room, as the one on the second floor is locked. However, enchanted by her and not believing the rumors, Gridley and Carly dine that evening at the Lamplighter, but are followed by Sergeant Dillings of Scotland Yard. At the restaurant, her presence caused quite a stir, but Gridley, finding Carly radiant, is oblivious to it. While leaving, through the thick fog, a mysterious man approaches Carly. She takes him aside to have a conversation with him, leaving Gridley confused. Back home, Carly confesses to Gridley that she might be a widow. However, during the night, Gridley is haunted by Carly playing the organ, stating, "I'm just saying goodbye to an old friend." The next day, Inspector Oliphant, played by Lionel Jeffries, convinces Gridley to spy on Carly, as she has claimed Miles' insurance and suspects that she killed him. Sounds like trouble. So, does finding books like Murder on the Footbridge and Death in the Night and a poison bottle in the kitchen change Gridley's mind about Carly? Does Ambrewster find Carly just as enchanting and think she's innocent? Or does Miles return, causing a coroner's inquest and a private nurse's testimony? Released July 26, 1962, our story is based on the 1956 short story The Notorious Tenant, by English writer Marjorie Sharp, a writer of 25 adult novels, 14 children's novels, 4 plays, 2 mysteries, and numerous short stories. Written for the screen by American filmmaker, producer, and screenwriter Blake Edwards, and television writer Larry Gelbart, best known for the creator of the TV series MASH. And this delightful mystery film was nominated for Best Written American Comedy in 1963 by the Writers Guild of America. Amazing. And if you'd like to watch this movie in its entirety, please click the link below. I think you would enjoy this one if you're a big Jack Lemmon fan like I am. And our trivia question this week: did someone who starred in our film design their own wardrobe? Did someone who starred in our film design their own wardrobe? So, a little more history and the answer to our trivia question. Well, that's next. The opening London scenes were filmed at the Columbia Ranch in Burbank, California, making the Columbia Ranch the subject of this week's history. So the Columbia Ranch is a movie ranch located at 411 North Hollywood Way in Burbank, California. Opened in the 1930s, it was used as the backdrop for films and television shows by Columbia Pictures and Warner Brothers. Columbia Pictures, with limited space at its Hollywood headquarters at Sunset and Gower, had been forced to rent neighboring movie studios' backlots for outdoor shooting. By the end of 1934, this problem was solved when studio head Harry Cohn acquired a 40-acre lot in Burbank at the corner of Hollywood Way and Oak Street. The site was an ideal movie ranch, as it was rural enough at the time to be landscaped as the studio wished, becoming the backdrop for almost all its outdoor scenes. Most interiors were shot at Columbia's main studio at Sunset and Gower, and sometimes other locations or studios. The streets were constructed and arranged to allow shooting at multiple angles to create the illusion of a much larger area. Some of the sets on New York Street and Western Streets had actual interiors called practical sets, which allowed for a single camera movement from outside to inside and vice versa. Columbia owned and operated the ranch from 1934 to 1971, producing such classic films as Lost Horizon in 1937, The Adventures of Robin Hood in 1938, High Noon in 1952, I did this film on my channel, The Notorious Landlady in 1962, yes, filming began May 15th in 1961, and Cat Ballou in 1965, along with the beloved television series Bewitched from 1964 to 1972, The Partridge Family from 1970, and The Monkees from 1965 to 1968, and many, many others. And yes, I was around then. I found one of my vinyl records from the late 60s I purchased, The Monkees' Greatest Hits. And in 1970, a catastrophic fire destroyed a quarter of the lot, half of the Western Street, the colonial European set, and parts of the Blondie Street. Although the sets were quickly rebuilt, 2 additional fires destroyed much of the original features of the ranch. In 1972, Columbia and Warner Brothers, both in financial trouble, entered into a joint venture to form the Burbank Studios on the site of the massive Warner lot 1 mile south of the ranch. In 1990, Warner gained ownership of the lot, renamed it Warner Ranch, and went on to produce such classic films as Lethal Weapon in 1987, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation in 1989, and the beloved TV series Friends from 1994 to 2004, and many, many others. Sadly, the Columbia Warner Ranch concluded its operations in 2023 and was subsequently demolished to make way for 16 new sound stages, the end of an era. Sadly enough, and that's why I like to keep this channel going, to keep this history alive. And the answer to our trivia question this week: did someone who starred in our film design their own wardrobe? Yes, Kim Novak, who plays the character Carly Hardwick in our film, designed her own wardrobe for the film. She even received screen credit for her work as the gown's designer. Novak was a trained artist who won 2 scholarships to the School of the Art Institute of Chicago. She took her design work seriously, using Saturdays when the studio was closed to focus entirely on sketching wardrobe ideas. Being promised screen credit, Novak was happy that if her look wasn't right for the character, no one would be blamed but herself. Novak also designed her own wardrobe for the film Boys' Night Out, released the same year in 1962. Amazing. A big thank you goes out to my viewers and subscribers. Thanks for helping out my channel, and we'll see you soon.